Good evening. This is Michael Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. I'm doing a video I really had hoped to do yesterday. I didn't get a chance to do it, and it's getting pretty late this evening, but I still wanted to do this. I'm going to try to get through this a little faster. I already did this once, and it took way too long. So let's see if I can get through this a little more quickly. So we're going to take a look. First, I want to take a look at our overall flow, hemispheric water vapor. And you can kind of see that we continue to have a pretty active up and down. But out here over the west, you can see we still have a pretty good ridge. It's driving storm systems up into the northern Canada, and it's really helping dump. You can see the cold air supply dumping right in through here. It's coming out of northern Alaska down through Canada and right into our area behind these storm systems. The storm that came through this morning really got through here a lot faster than expected. It outran the cold by a long shot, so we're probably not going to see any kind of a mix at all. In fact, it's cleared out, and we're probably going to drop into low to mid 20s tonight. So that low is getting out of here, and that's going to be kind of an issue that we're going to have here the next couple of weeks. And it's typical for this time of year with larger storms. They tend to blast through a little faster. They tend to be north of us. The centers of low pressure tend to be north of us, so we only get in on backside snow at this point. So that's really not that uncommon for this time of year, and that's could be potentially a problem with the storm on Sunday. So we'll just have to monitor it, see how things set up. But I would note that the low that came through this morning came through farther south than what was expected, and our temperatures were about 5 degrees cooler than what was expected. So that's something to keep in mind when you see model data that's trying to torch things out, is we're already running cooler than what models are tending to forecast. So let's get back in here and take a look at, again, I talked about November. We've been cooler than average. We will finish November cooler than average. And then we'll get into early December. And we do expect to warm up the first few days of December. Again, warm is relative. By the time we're starting December, the average high, I believe, is 43. So a couple of degrees warmer is still only in the mid 40s. So I use the term warm loosely, but we expect a relatively warm open to December. And then there's a storm system somewhere around the 6th, maybe I'd say the 5th to 8th time frame, that will come through, that will introduce some colder air. And I think once we get past that, then cold will be predominant again. But we will still have the potential for some warm shots ahead of storms, which is actually, as long as the storm track drops far enough south, if you like snow, you kind of want to see these storms where it warms up ahead of them and then it gets cold on the backside. We just want to see them tracking farther south. Maybe we want to see them running along the Ohio River or into northern Kentucky if you want good snow. So it's going to be a little bit before that really sets up, but I think we're going to start seeing better chances as we get in to the second week of December. I do think that we have potentially 3 storms before Christmas, 3 December storms before Christmas. Again, the one right in maybe the 5th to 8th time frame, another one maybe mid-month, and then another one perhaps in the 20th to 22nd time frame. So those are all still a long way out. A lot can happen, and it could be that the people who think that December is going to be really warm could be right, and I could be wrong. So we'll wait and see. But those are potential weather makers in that time frame. Let's take a look at the Climate Prediction Center's 6 to 10 day outlook and 8 to 14 day outlook. I normally don't use these, but I wanted to point them out because I'm seeing them used to kind of manipulate audiences, because you have some people who want to say that it's going to be cold all the time, and so they'll use a map like the 6 to 10 day outlook. Then you got the other people who want to say that it's going to be warm, and so they'll use the 8 to 14 day outlook. And then, these two overlap each other a little bit. And so if you're looking at it realistically, what you're seeing is November 20th to December 1st. Then this 8 to 14 day is November 29th to December 5th. That tells you that it's probably going to be cooler leading up to the very end of November, and then it's going to be warmer at the beginning of December. What these maps don't do is tell you intensity of warmth or cold. They don't even guarantee warmth or cold. They're percentage probabilities. If you look down at their little legend down here, I like that they've added these notes telling you that the 33 to 50%, these first two shades of either one, is just saying they're leaning that way. They're leaning warmer, or it's leaning cooler, but you could still go either way. It's not until you pass the 50% that the warmer cold becomes likely. So these things get misused. Again, they're just probabilities. They're not measures of intensity, and they're not guaranteed that that's going to happen. So with that said, we'll go into what we're expecting for December. Again, we'll start off the CPC map because I think they're relatively close on this. I don't disagree with them a whole lot. They've got this bridge out here over the southwest, which I think is going to continue to be relatively, it's going to be a semi-permanent feature, and it'll move east at times, it'll move west at times. I think it's going to be more of our weather guide this winter than normally. Most winters we're dealing with the southeast ridge. This year it's going to be a southwest ridge. And then, not pictured on this map, there's a ridge of high pressure up in Canada, kind of northeastern Canada. And between these two ridges, the one that you see on this map and the one up in Canada, is this weakness that has kind of been allowing cold to filter down through. And that's where we've been getting our cold air tap from, kind of what you were seeing on the water vapor loop a few minutes ago, is that in between is where these cooler shots can come. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to continue to see. But you see that the CPC is not torching us out for December. They've got us in equal chances, and really you have to get into the southwest before you get into the likely warmer than average. But we'll take a look. Here's the CFS V2. It's got the entire country warmer than average for December. That's not going to happen. There'll be pie in my face. It's not going to happen. The entire U.S. is not going to be warmer than average for December. It's got, southern Florida, about average, but even these anomalies on here are, half a degree, like through our area, half a degree to 1 degree warmer than average. Again, when you consider the temperatures in December, that 1 to 2 degrees or half a degree, it really does not mean it's a torch, and it does not mean you can't get snow. So I think, again, people who want to say it's always going to be warm kind of use these things a little disingenuously, but without adding the context of what they really mean. But see, the CFS V2 does have us warmer than average for December. The European also has us almost the entire country warmer than average. But again, you can see up here in northeastern Canada, there's your big ridge up there. You got your ridge in the southwestern U.S., and you can see the weakness right down through here. It just wants to fill this in with warmth. I don't think that's right, other than the beginning of December and storm-induced warmth. But overall, I think we're going to see cool in this area. But this is what the models are saying, and this is what people are pointing to. Then we'll take a look at the CANSIPs. This is not a temperature anomaly. This is a geopotential height anomaly. It still kind of gives you a good idea of things. Again, you can see on this, you don't want to look at the colors. The colors are just telling you whether the pressure is higher or lower than what's usual for this time of year. So what you want to look at is the pressure lines, the height lines. And you can see we got the ridge out here in the west. And you can see there's a trough right through here, the axis of the trough, kind of right through the eastern Ohio Valley. So storminess is going to continue to be possible here in the eastern U.S., and this is not conducive to an absolute torch, like most are saying. So, but this is kind of the model data that is being looked at to point to warmth. Another thing that's kind of being pointed to is the MJO. here's the thing with the MJO. What it is convection that runs, storm convection that runs along the equator, the equatorial regions, and that convection, where it's located, affects the jet streams and affects our storminess and our temperatures and all that. So we take a look at the MJO, excuse me, and what we see here is on this Wheeler plot, and these Wheeler plots aren't always the best for analysis, but they're helpful visually. So this green line amidst all these yellow lines are just ensemble members. So you can see this model, this is GEPS. It's kind of all over the place with its ensembles, but in the middle is the forecast it's making. So it's got us in a phase 4, moving to phase 5 in the MJO, and then this goes through December 5th. And by the end of this run, at December 5th, we're in a phase 6. There's a little circle in the center of this thing, and which is kind of a null. It kind of means it really isn't doing anything. We're kind of coming out of null, and we're just really wasn't doing anything or progressing, and it's staying weak. Even right here in phase 6, it's not that strong. But you take a look at the phases that we're in, now, and over here in this side, hopefully you can see this stuff. These temperature composites over here. You have phase 1, you're going down this left column, phase 1, 2, 3, and 4. Then the next column over is phase 5, 6, 7, and 8. So look, phase 4 is warm, phase 3 was warm, 5, 6, all warm phases. Right now we're in warm phases of the MJO, and yet we're not warm. Other than these little storm-induced warm shots, we are not warm. We're actually colder than average now because the MJO pulses are not that strong. If this plot was running that green line way out here around the perimeter, maybe out on the outer edge of where it's gray, where it's a strong pulse, then yeah, you buy into these composites big time. But you have to take them with a little bit of a grain of salt right now. So you consider we're cooler than average now in a warm phase. It strengthens a little bit as we get into phase 6 there in early December, which is, again, warm, and that's kind of what we expect. And again, warm is relative. And then it should move on to phase 7 and 8, and those are cooler signals. 7, 8, and 1 are all cooler phases. So we should be spending the latter probably 2/3 of December in cooler phases of the MJO, where we're already running cooler in the warm phases. So that just to me kind of points to the potential for more widespread cold air than what's being forecast. Taking a look at the sea surface temperatures. We're in a La Nina. We're in a 2-year La Nina. This La Nina, you can see in the dark circle there, are the coldest anomalies, and they are in the eastern Pacific. It was forecast to be stronger in the central Pacific. If we were in a strong La Nina in the central Pacific, yeah, probably all bets would be off for much of a winter. But the east-based La Nina actually is pretty conducive to some high latitude blocking, especially in conjunction with the MJO phases. And so, some blocking up in northeastern Canada around Greenland, and then we're not really seeing much in the way of blocking in the North Pacific. The so-called EPO, or Eastern Pacific Oscillation, actually is not in a good phase for cold, but we kind of got this PNA that's kind of blended with it, and so we're getting a good lift up out of the northwest into Canada, where it's tapping the cold air and dropping back into the eastern U.S. And some of that is because we're in an eastern-based La Nina versus central-based. You can see the warm anomalies way out here in the western Pacific. Those will start to filter their way across over the course of the winter. And we can kind of see that here. We're in if you look at this chart on the upper right, we've peaked out probably in our La Nina, and we're starting to transition back toward warmer. As I've looked at things in the past, when we're transitioning, if we're in a steady, strong La Nina or a steady, strong El Nino, or even if they're weak or moderate, if they're steady, things aren't really getting stirred up much, and it's not really very good for us. But when we're in a transitional period, then the atmosphere begins to respond and change, and that's good for our storminess. So I like the fact that we're starting to come out of the strongest part of the La Nina and transition. I think that's going to help us out as far as storminess and some shots of cold air. So, and we should be out of La Nina by the spring. And we're taking a look at the QBO, as quasi-biennial oscillation. I won't get into too much of what it is, but over here in this mess of lines, you can kind of see a red line running down the left side of this. And when we started off the year, we were kind of in this upper right or upper left quadrant. And we're progressing now down. We're into the lower left quadrant. So we're in easterlies. We're in east-based QBO, and we're in a negative QBO. Both of those bode well for colder anomalies in the eastern U.S., and not real strong ones either. You can see this map that I got from Dacula Weather. We might push a -10 on the QBO, and you can see kind of what we're already seeing, and that's you've got your western ridge, you've got your eastern trough, and you got this ridge up here in northeastern Canada and toward Greenland as kind of the blocking. So again, we've got a descending QBO, easterly QBO. That's another good sign for winter. Now we'll take a look at the polar vortex, because I've seen a lot about this as well. And so we take a look at, this is at 10 millibar level. This is the stratospheric polar vortex. And here's the thing about using the stratospheric polar vortex. We have a tropospheric polar vortex, and of course the part of the atmosphere we're in, that we live in, is the troposphere. Stratosphere is above us. Whatever the polar vortex is doing in the stratosphere, one, it has to couple to the troposphere in order to have an effect. And it's a crapshoot as to whether they do or not, but it has to do so, and it generally takes it 30 to 45 days to do so from any given point. So when we take a look at this, starting on the left, this was on November 15th. Polar vortex was pretty round, and the core of it was in northern Canada, is on our side of the planet, had a nice little dip down into the plains and into the northern Great Lakes. Really good spot for us. We would have a good tap of cold air if this filtered to the surface. On the 16th, it began to elongate, so it was being compressed, probably a minor warming event that was compressing it. I was starting to stretch it out, but again, the core of it remained in northern Canada. We kept a good, strong flow over our part of the country, and again, we're right on the edge of it, versus being into the core of it where we just get brutally cold, and that's it. I like being on the edge of it, and it gives better storm chances. By the 17th, you can see it was elongated even more. But we continued with the core of it right here. But you can see a secondary strengthening starting to happen over northern Eurasia. 18th, elongated even more. 19th, even more. By the 20th, now you can see the strongest core starting to form over Eurasia, and it's starting to weaken over here. And we're starting to get some of the weaker flow into this area. So what does all this mean? If it doesn't filter to the and couple to the troposphere, it means nothing. If it does, and you attach a 30 to 45 day lag time, then we're looking at mid to late December, maybe into early January, being pretty cold and having good good cold air tap. If it does not connect, I can't say it's enough. If it does not couple to the troposphere, doesn't mean a thing. But if it does, where the stratospheric PV is right now doesn't mean anything to our weather right now. It means something to our weather in 30 to 45 days. So we'll wait and see if it's couples, see if it makes it, see if it's going to have an effect on our weather, or if it's not. I do think the second 2/3 of December is going to be cooler anyway, but this could be a helper. So with that, I'll take a look at one more thing here before I go, and take a look at the GEFS 500 millibar geopotential heights. And I don't forecast by these, obviously, but I think this is, got a reasonable grip on what's going on, and visually it's going to help you to see things anyway. So we take a look at it, and here we are going through. You can kind of see this area right here. This is our low pulling away from us. You can see the lower heights. So we got the cold air that's coming in straight out of Alaska right down into our region, just like what we've talked about. So then we move on. You can see the midweek ridge here, where we're going to warm up a little bit, probably mid to upper 40s for Wednesday and Thanksgiving. Then we move on a little bit farther, and you can see it kind of break down. And what we begin to see is the ridge build back up out here to the west, a pretty strong ridge up here just south of Greenland. And those heights extending into northeastern Canada, kind of what we've been seeing. And this is getting to the end of the month. We still have a trough right here, and then we've got the ridge out here. So we could have a northwest flow. We'll kind of wait and see how it's going to play out as far as any kind of storminess. Then we get, it's kind of lagging on me here, I apologize. So we go on into then early December, and we can see the heights build into the area, kind of the warmth that we've been, I was just talking about. You can see the ridge develop right here, a little bit of a weak southeast ridge, with a big trough out west, big trough out in the East Atlantic, kind of stronger high pressure up over the Hudson Bay. And we take a look, and we're getting into, then by late December 5th into December 6th, then our heights are starting to flatten out a little bit more. We're becoming a little more zonal. And we go on and we start to redevelop some troughiness. And this kind of clings all the way through. And this around December 9th, you can kind of see maybe a potential storm system coming through there. And then I wish this thing wasn't lagging as bad as it is. And then we go on through the rest of the month, and you can kind of see just the same kind of thing. Just, these little waves of weakness pulsing through here, but no big ridge in the eastern U.S. We continue to kind of remain under a trough. And then finally we get into, this is Christmas Eve, and we've still kind of got this northwest flow here. This is a little more zonal, not a big ridge out here. So, but I do think the ridge is going to push back up. This isn't really picking it up yet. So, but that gives you an idea of what we're looking at. I really think the GEFS is the closest on what's going to happen, and it does not scream warm December. So I've rambled on much too long. So with all that, I thank you all. If you, thank you those of you who support the page. Those of you who are monthly subscribers, that is extremely helpful, because then I know what's coming. But absolutely everybody who has put the faith in this page to donate to us, thank you very much. If you haven't done so, please do so. Keep us going. Help us to grow and get better. There's some things I would really like to do to make this page awesome, but it requires money. But again, I don't want to hang up on that. Thank you all. If you get a chance, pay our sponsors a visit as well. Joy Mitchell as my wife, independent Scentsy consultant. If you need anything that smells good, you need some wax warmers, some diffusers, what have you, get in touch with her. Madison County Federal Credit Union, let them handle your financial needs. The awesome Anderson Symphony Orchestra, I've been to see them a couple of times. They are outstanding. They are truly a hidden gem for this county. You definitely should check them out. Community Hospital, they've, of course, none of us want to go to the ER, but they have a lot of medical services they provide outside of the ER. So Let them help handle your medical needs, and Waitman Realty Group. Thank you to all of our sponsors, and let Jeff and his group handle if you need to sell a house, buy a house, definitely get a hold of Jeff. So with all that, I thank you all. And this is Micah Mitchell with Madison County Weather Updates. Have a great evening.